Set, also spelled Setesh, Sutekh, Setekh, or Suty. Center of worship, Kemet, Egypt. Classification: God, gender, male. Period of worship, pre-Christian era to present day. Known affiliations: the desert, storms, disorder, violence and foreigners. Seth is a member of the Ennead, the 9 original Kemetic gods which represents the line of Atum Ra. This Ennead consists of the god Atum, his children Shu and Tefnut, their children Geb and Nut, and their children Ausir, Auset, Seth, and Nephthys. His sacred stone is Aventurine. History: Set was one of the most ancient of the Kemetic gods, and the focus of worship since the pre-dynastic period. As part of the Ennead he was the son of Nut and Geb and the brother of Ausir, Auset, and Nephthys. He was a storm god associated with strange and frightening events such as eclipses, thunderstorms and earthquakes. He also represented the desert, and, by extension, the foreign lands beyond the desert. His glyph appears in the Kemetic words for turmoil, confusion, illness, storm, and rage. He was considered to be very strong but dangerous and strange. However, he was not always considered to be an evil being. Set was a friend of the dead, helping them to ascend to heaven on his ladder, and he protected the life-giving oases of the desert, and was at times a powerful leader of the pharaoh, and even the sun god Ra. The earliest representation of Set can be found on a carved ivory comb from the Amratian period, Atum Ra, 4,500 to 35 years before the Common Era, and he also appears on the famous scorpion mace head. His worship seems to have originated in one of the most ancient settlements in the town of Nut, in Upper Kemet. Nut lies near the entrance to the Wadi Hammamat, the doorway to the eastern desert and its gold deposits, and the city took its name from the word for gold, Nut. As a result, Set was sometimes called Tea of Gold Town. Nut was the most important of the ancient settlements, and was located close to the site of the Nakada settlement from which this early culture takes its name. Pre-dynastic worship of Set was also evident in the 11th and 19th nomes of Upper Egypt. The standard for the 11th nome is topped by a Set animal, and the name of the main town, Shep, means the pig. Seth is pacified, and Set was worshipped in his form as a fish, in the capital of the 19th nome. At this point in history, Seth was clearly associated with Upper Egypt, and was a popular and esteemed god. However, by the Second Intermediate period he was associated with the Hyksos, who probably saw a similarity between Set and Baal, and so he became seen as a force for evil. He was then rehabilitated during the 19th dynasty pharaohs, notably Suty I, whose name means men of Set. Set was the black boar who swallowed the moon each month, obscuring its light. He was also identified with the hippopotamus, crocodiles, scorpions, turtles, pigs, and donkeys, all animals which were considered to be unclean or dangerous. Some fish were considered to be sacred to Set, most notably the Nile carp and the oxyrhynchus, as they had apparently eaten the penis of Osiris after Set had dismembered the dead king. However, he was most often depicted as a Set animal, or a man with the head of a Set animal. The Set animal is a dog or jackal-like creature, but it is not clear whether it exactly represented an extinct species, or was a mythological beast uniquely associated with Set himself. He was married to Nephthys, but their marriage was not a happy one. However, Seth had many other wives and concubines. According to one myth, he lived in the Great Bear, a constellation in the northern sky, an area which symbolized darkness and death. He was restrained with chains and guarded by his wife Tauret, the hippo goddess of childbirth. He was given the 2 foreign goddesses Ennead and Astarte, war goddesses who were daughters of Ra, as wives in compensation for Maat's ruling that Horus should rule Kemet. However, he had no children, despite being married to the goddess of childbirth and fertility, as well as Nephthys and Neith. This was considered to be very unconventional by the Kemites. Not only was he infertile, but one of his testicles had been torn off by Horus. When Set tore out Horus's eye, he only ate lettuce, which was sacred to the fertility godman, because it secreted a white, milky substance that the Kemites linked to semen, and he was considered to have odd sexual habits. He was bisexual, and tried, and failed, to rape both Horus and Auset. During the Old Kingdom and the Middle Kingdom, Horus the Elder and Set represented Upper and Lower Kemet. They were often depicted together, symbolizing the union of Upper and Lower Kemet. He was equal to the hawk god, Horus the Elder, if not always his ally. Horus represented the sky during the daytime, while Set represented the nighttime sky. When these two gods were linked, the two were said to be Horus Set, a man with two heads, one of the hawk of Horus, the other of the Set animal. Although they fought, neither party could win, and it was believed that they would continue to fight until the end of time, when Maat was destroyed, and the waters of none, chaos, engulfed the world. Even as an infant he was dangerous and unpredictable. According to the pyramid texts, he ripped himself violently from his mother's womb instead of being born normally like his siblings. Set was jealous of his brother Ausir. Two reasons are given for this jealousy. The first is that Ausir was made pharaoh of Kemet after Geb resigned the throne. Seth felt that he should have been given this accolade, and wished to usurp the throne. The second reason is that, according to one myth, his wife Nephthys tricked Ausir into having sex with her, by disguising herself as her sister Auset, the wife of Ausir, and bore him her son, Anubis. Seth was understandably unhappy about the situation, but seems to have held his grudge against his more handsome brother Ausir rather than his unfaithful wife. Whatever the reason, Set decided that his brother had to die. He made a great feast, supposedly in honor of Ausir, and offered a beautifully carved chest to whichever guest would fit into it. Of course, the chest was built to fit Ausir, and when he lay down inside it, Seth's followers nailed the lid shut, and threw the chest into the Nile. Auset managed to find the chest, and bring it back to Kemet. However, Seth discovered the chest, and dismembered the corpse of his brother, spreading the parts all over the country. Auset and Nephthys began their search for the pieces of Ausir, but his penis could not be found, because it was swallowed by a fish in the Nile. Undaunted, Auset assembled the pieces and magically conceived her child, Horus. When he grew up he fought with Set, essentially adopting the position of Horus the Elder as the enemy of Set. Despite the role he was given in the death of Ausir, Set was considered to be the defender of the sun god Ra. He protected the solar bark on its journey through the underworld, or the night sky, and fought the serpent Apep. He was associated with the desert, which takes its name from the word desht, the red place. He represented the fierce dry heat of the sun as it parched the land, and was infertile like the desert. Initially he probably represented the desert near Nut, but soon he represented all deserts and foreign lands, becoming god of overseas trade. Set had been associated with the desert and foreigners for some time before the Hyksos took over parts of Lower Kemet. However, when they took him as their main god, this broke Set's association with Lower Egypt. His name was erased from monuments and his statues destroyed. All of his negative attributes were emphasized and his positive side was ignored. But Set's fortune soon changed. The pharaohs of the 19th dynasty were from the Delta area, where worship of Set was still popular. Although Amun was the state god, Seth was more highly venerated in the Delta. Ramesses II divided his army into 4 divisions, and named one after Set. When he fought the Hittites he was described as being like Set in the moment of his power and like Set, great of strength. He even named his daughter Bint Nut, daughter of Anath, Seth's wife. Seth had a protective role, and even in his negative aspects the Kemites understood his place in the world. He was dangerous and unpredictable, but could be a powerful friend. During the Ptolemaic period a temple to both Horus and Sutekh, who was often associated with Set as both took the form of a crocodile, was built south of Nut and named Ombos, now known as Kamombos, after the god of the ancient Suty, Set.